Good evening and welcome to another fantastic edition of Sit Back with Shaq, coming to you live on the Podhub Facebook page. This is a show where we basically sit back, relax, and enjoy, featuring some fantastic individuals, great personalities, and wonderful celebrities on the show. Talk about what is happening with them in their lives, depending on what they've achieved at that precise moment, or things that they're actually working towards in the next couple of days. Today, of course, we have another super artist and a super featured celebrity, I should say, who's actually been around for a long time. And of course, we're going to be talking to her in terms of one of the most sought after online TV shows that she's been hosting the last almost 1 year right now. We're going to get into all that, and also going to be talking to a fantastic band with a release of a new song. All that and more coming to you live right here on the Podhub Facebook page. And of course, like to say hello to our wonderful sponsors, the Bristol Institute of Business Management. Thank you so much for being a part of the show. Gonna take a quick break and we'll be back with our guests right here on Sit Back with Shaq live on the Podhub Facebook page. We live in a world that requires answers for complex problems. To understand the intricacy of details, we need fresh minds and individuals dedicated to answer the world's calling. At the Bristol Institute of Business Management, we are looking for more of the best minds, more free thinkers, and more problem solvers to gear them for that very call. Here's to those who want more from life, who want more from the things that actually matter. A whole new take, a whole new vision. To those who see much more in the little things, who want more from challenging the bigger things. To those who go for the goal. An arsenal of academics who strive for more. Here's to every one of them. And here's to more and more. A network of leaders who change more than the ordinary. This is much more than just an MBA. This is an MBA that will change the way you work. Welcome to the MBA from the University of the West of England. Welcome back to the show. This is Sit Back with Shaq on a Wednesday evening, coming to you live right here on the Podhub Facebook page. Like I said, we've got a wonderful personality that we're going to be talking to in just a few minutes, and also we have a band of we're featuring a brand new song of theirs which was just released a couple of days ago. We'll be talking to them also on the shows, right? So without any further ado, it's about time for us to cross over live and have Shanuki on the show with us. Good evening to you.
Hi, can you hear me?
I can hear you very well and I can see you very well. You're
Okay.
all dolled up. Where are you?
Yeah, I'm at a ladies' night at Rocco's. So I've had too much wine.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm going to try to be responsible. I'm going to try to be adult about this.
Let's see how far this goes. Let's see how far this goes.
It's free wine, man. It's free wine. Who's going to say no?
Naturally, and you're going live from there, so you might as well have people. Where's your wine glass?
Oh, it's downstairs. I got a room upstairs because there's too much noise downstairs. There are lots of ladies. It's ladies' night, okay? So there's no way I'm going to be able to do like an interview with a bunch of drunken women around me.
It would have been fun, actually. It would have been a lot of fun.
I'm sure.
All right, Shaliki, now tell us, what are you up to right now? Have you sort of given up on your corporate life, or are you in between phases? What's going on?
Yes and no. I've had problems in the last 21 years of my career in advertising. I've had this issue of not being able to sleep at night because I felt like my integrity and my conscience was constantly questioned with the nature of the industry I was working in. And I've also been so involved, I guess, in all sorts of causes and advocacies and stuff like that. So I wanted to use the craft of advertising and communications that I knew to do something good for the world, to contribute in some way. So what I've done is I've kind of transitioned into a consultant rather than an advertising professional like the stereotypical or the traditional advertising professional. I now do cause marketing consultancy. So what I try to do is I try to engage with corporates as well as NGOs and try to help use brand communication to champion good and to stand for something more than just a bottom line and a product and service. So it's something that I've always wanted to do, something that I've tried to do at agencies. But there have always been practicalities and things that have gotten in the way. So now that I work for myself, I can actually make my own rules, and I can say no when I feel like my conscience is taking a hit with the kind of work I do.
So, I mean, was it a bit of a risk for you to actually take this on your own?
For sure, Shaq, because I decided, okay, last year I turned 40. So I had a bit of a midlife crisis.
Right.
And you did that whole thing of what am I doing with my life? I need to find myself, blah, blah, blah. And I decided last year that I was going to leave my job. I was running an advertising agency, right? And it was a good job. It was a good pay, but I decided, okay, I'm not happy. I'm going to work for myself. And I did this whole plan for myself, like who are the people I'm going to talk to? What kind of business am I going to do? Blah, 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 blah. And I handed in my resignation last year for me to exit the company in March.
Yeah, wow, great timing.
Guess what happened in March? Guess what happened in March? Exactly. So you could say that life threw a bit of a curveball there.
Right.
All the business that I had kind of lined up obviously fell through because companies' budgets have taken a hit and plans had to be quickly revised. So essentially, it's been a bit of a hustle. I'm not going to lie. Because I've also had to kind of find contingencies, figure out ways to be financially sound. Because I've left running a company to just working from home and not even having that stability of that monthly salary at the end of the day or that definite work that's coming in the business in the pipeline and stuff. But that said, this has also been the holiday that I never took for 21 years of a career. This has been the break that I never allowed myself to take, and there's been so much like self-discovery. So this chance to just like reevaluate what matters to me, what makes me happy, and also spend that time on really like planning life out and figuring out like what I'm good at, and I've gotten myself involved in all sorts of other sort of advocacies. I've been doing a lot of motivational speaking. I've been doing a hell of a lot of panel discussions and webinars and this and that, and being able to contribute in some way to a society, to communities, and to causes that matter to me that I didn't have a chance to do. Yeah, I did cause work in a way when I was working, but I never had like the time or the luxury to focus on it. It was never sort of given a priority because the work came first. But now I can really prioritize that stuff. And I feel so much better about myself and where my life is headed. Even though a lot of things are unsure, I'm happier. That much I know.
You see, you have a control over your life that you didn't have for the last 21 years. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. I may not have complete control over my financials.
I don't think anybody has, actually.
But at least those who have a job know that there's a salary coming at the end of the month. Here, I'm like pretty much looking for it on my own. So it's that's a bit of a, I need to strategize and, plan that out properly. But otherwise, definitely being in control of my time, being in control of my choices, my decisions, because when you're running a company or when you have other people who are counting on you, there are certain things that you have to compromise on, or, certain decisions that you don't want to make, but you have to make to obviously run the business, end of the day, pay the bills. So this thing of working for myself has been really good because I don't have to struggle with that on my
Right.
mind.
So now,
Yeah.
now I'm glad that you actually spoke about all the stuff that you have been doing. You've been in
Yeah.
theater. You obviously have been involved in animal welfare. Like you said, you were also in advertising with cause marketing,
Yeah.
etc., etc. You're also a champion for women empowerment. Where does your passion actually lie, Shanuki? Where are you looking at? I mean, you're like dabbling all over, aren't you?
Good question. I also don't know. Everybody asks this question, what does Shanuki do? And I also ask myself, what do I do? Because every day, not even every week, every day there's a different version of me out there, right?
Right.
Something else that I'm involved in. But you know what? It's okay. And that's what I've like come to a decision about, and really been, I mean, I've been okay with that now. The fact that I don't have to have just the one path. If I'm good at different things, if I'm able to contribute to different things, why limit myself to one path? Right? I mean, there are people who just need that one focus and that one journey. For me, for whatever reason, it's been like 15 different things. But I've also been able to achieve in a way in those 15 different things, or do something worthwhile in those 15 different things. So I don't know if it's necessarily for me to really bog down to the status quo or conform to that norm of having that one focus area. I like being involved in different things. I have a hugely low boredom threshold, so I need to be involved in different things all the time. And if I have a voice, now I have a voice, I have a platform, I have knowledge and the ability to really make a difference in various places. So yeah, why not? I don't want to be known as just the one thing. I think it's fun that I have different capabilities.
Okay,
It
so we're
also
gonna
keeps my avenues open, right? My options are open all the time.
so we're gonna break it down into the different stuff that you are associated with. Let's start off with the animal welfare, which you are pretty committed yourself. Somebody staring at
Yeah.
you over there. What's happening? You keep looking
No,
away.
actually, excuse me. I'm sorry. I'm doing a small interview. Is okay, right? I won't disturb you. Okay, thank you. No, there are some diners who walked in.
All right, okay. They can order a pizza for you in
I
that
don't
case.
want
If
to
that's okay.
disturb their dinner.
So let's talk about the animal welfare commitment that you are actually part of, and tell us more
Yeah.
about that and the role that you are playing right now, and how is that going for you?
Um, but the thing is, in Sri Lanka, you have different various pocket groups and you have different civilian groups that work in animal welfare. I try not to get involved in any one, as in I don't have like a set membership in one animal welfare group. I kind of support all of them and get involved in as an individual. I use whatever capabilities and capacities I have to support them all. That lets me be neutral, that lets me not get into the politics, that lets me do the work where the work is needed and then not have to worry about any of the other, fluff that they have to deal with. So my role really individually, I do a lot of rehomes, rehabilitations and stuff like that whenever I don't know, my mother keeps saying they find me, these animals, right? They're constantly like in a state of disrepair or need or whatever. I keep coming across them. So I'll rescue them, I'll raise money, medicate them, try and rehome them, rehabilitate them. So that's individually. I have a group that I started called Forever Pals. That
Yeah.
that is kind of a portal for all the different animal welfare services in
It's
Sri Lanka.
possibly
You
one
bring
of
it
the
all together.
first portals in Sri Lanka, I believe.
Yeah, yeah, because you have like these various groups that do various things. But if you, as a member of the general public, if you have a need, say for instance, you need emergency blood for your pet,
Right.
or you found an animal on the street, you don't know who to call, or you're on a trip and you come across an injured animal and you don't know who the vet is in the area. So sometimes the general public is not aware of who are the animal organizations out there, who are the closest vets, what are the services available, what's the information out there. So this was kind of just bringing it all into one place,
Right.
so that you just tap into that entire network in one go without having to spend a lot of time asking around and stuff. So that was the idea behind that. It's going pretty well. Apart from that, I do sort of advocate for a lot of things. So right now there are organizations that are fighting for the conservation of forests, for the conservation of wildlife. Elephants is a big issue. We have the human-elephant conflict in Sri Lanka that there are different people who are. So I use my voice, I guess, because I have a somewhat decent social media presence or some sort of influence with influential people, that I can use that. I can use my talk show to push those narratives, to push those causes. And I was recently appointed an ambassador for the UN Sustainable Development Goals, goal number 15, which is life on land. So
Right.
animals, wildlife, forests come under that. So I'm engaging with the group that appointed me with that ambassadorship. I'm working with them to work with celebrities, to work on programs, to kind of champion the cause in different ways. Doing educational work. I've been going to schools, talking to schools about wildlife and animal welfare. We've been doing programs on, I mean, I help the Tara Foundation sometimes, or simply raising awareness, raising education on responsible pet ownership, whatever it is.
But right
Yeah.
now, I mean, in terms of, if you take a look at you being in the thick of things as far as animal welfare is concerned, why do you think the major political parties still do not recognize that animal welfare is a key issue for the growing number of voters right now? I mean, yes, when the elections come around, certain
Shaq?
people dabble with it.
Yeah.
Why is that?
Okay, let me answer that question with a completely different thing. We have 52% women in this country. We don't even have a cabinet ministry for women's affairs anymore.
True.
If they're not going to prioritize 52% of the human population in this country, what are the chances of them prioritizing animals?
Right.
That's a question, right? But that said, yeah, our animal welfare laws, right now the laws that exist are from 1948. No,
Archaic.
1958. Archaic. Like you murder somebody's pet in cold blood, which has happened, by the
Yeah.
way, in the news, and you're fined 100 rupees.
Right.
So,
Right.
I mean, and we even have like a Flora and Fauna Act where you can actually cause immense damage to exotic and endangered wildlife, and you'll be fined like about $500. That's it. So definitely there are new animal welfare laws. There are revised. There's a draft bill that has been in Parliament for, and we've been pushing for it to be turned into law. It's been a journey of about 15 to 20 years. It continues to be a journey. Every time there's an election coming up, they promise that they will make a priority of it. And every time the elections finish, it just gets shelved again. So it's just not a priority unless, I think the reason when you ask me why isn't it a priority, it's because nobody is going to pocket anything out of it.
Right.
What is the money they can make as a parliamentarian or a minister? What is the money you can make from animal welfare? You can't, right? So if there's some sort of development aspect to it, if there's some money in it for you, you'll be interested. Otherwise, you're not.
Interesting. Well, now obviously you're still very much involved in animal welfare, and you're still very much, of course,
Yeah.
a pillar of strength in all these organizations that you associate.
No,
with.
no, I think there are people who do a lot more than me. I just talk a lot. That's all.
Yeah, not only for this, but yeah, in general, you mean.
Yeah.
Let's talk about.
You know me.
Yeah, I
You
do
know
know
me.
you for a long time. Let's talk.
You're not bad, no? With all the wine in me, I'm still talking about these things. I'm like actually coherent.
maybe it's not enough. I was expecting this interview to take another turn, but yeah, but it's still going on the straight line that we expected it to. Yeah, so let's see how far
I
it goes.
could have, but then there are people in the room.
Yeah, I realize. Cause marketing, right? Cause marketing is something
Yeah.
you are obviously also very passionate about. You ran a advertising agency that predominantly looked into cause marketing. And how difficult was it for you to make clients understand what cause marketing is? Because it's a breakaway from advertising, your traditional advertising.
No, look, it's not rocket science. It's something that's used around the world, right? And it is a known fact in the business. I mean, it is a known fact that the millennial audiences, the target audiences, are demanding that what they buy into have some sort of stake in doing some good in the world. I mean, the customer is getting more socially conscious,
Yeah.
so socially or eco-conscious or whatever. So businesses around the world, brands around the world are actually leveraging on this, are turning their brands into something that mean more than just a generic product or service. But in Sri Lanka, it's very old school, difficult. They're not cottoning onto it very easily, especially the larger guys. I think the problem is not with the marketing teams or with the top management, it's with procurement. That's what I've seen. Like, it's always the financial guys who cause the barriers. Like, if they need to transition their business into something more sustainable or look at eco-conscious alternatives to their product packaging, for instance, or look at really taking their CSR into a different level, because cause marketing is really where you you align your entire corporate or brand philosophy to something that matters. It's not just a random CSR where you go and like paint a village well or something like that and say, "Oh, we did some good." You
Right.
have to, your reason for being, your brand purpose has to be developed, and your entire business has to, that the brand purpose becomes the core of your business. So it's called higher purpose value, and it's actually reported on now around the world. But Sri Lanka really, it's still very sales focused, very tactical, very old school. Unless your competitor has done it, you're not willing to take that risk. That said, there are so many smaller organizations with their hearts in the right places. So you have the social enterprises, you have these small new entrepreneurships that are very focused on sustainability, or whether it's community empowerment, or it's some sort of environmental or community enrichment. So their businesses are built around that. So these guys really have the right vision. They unfortunately don't have the money to put behind that vision. So I do assist whoever allows me to in terms of leveraging that vision and sort of marketing that vision and getting more people on board. Definitely, there are smaller players that I can see who are going to become quite big in the future. These bigger, larger conglomerates who don't get on this ride, they're going to lose out in the future. And I think COVID has taught us a lot of things, right?
Yeah.
Post-COVID, a lot of businesses are realizing the importance of standing for something more in
Right.
order to retain their customer bases.
Right. So,
So you
you're-
have
you're-
like a couple of, yeah.
You're still a consultant. I mean, even if anybody actually wants
I'm a
to sort of
consultant.
sort out cause
Yeah.
marketing in some way, they can still reach out
Yes.
to you.
Yeah, so I'm a consultant. I'm into strategy and brand communications. What I do is, when they engage with me to do their creative brand communications, I bring in the cause marketing aspect to their brand communications. I remind them that their brand needs a purpose before just selling the label.
Right.
Figure out the purpose and sell the purpose. And once you sell the purpose, that's your competitive advantage. Nobody else can come and say, "Oh, I have that purpose as well." It's a win-win.
But not many businesses actually are focusing on purposes. I mean, in general, even businesses that have been around for years are there purely
Yeah.
based on bottom line. They're not really there on a purpose base.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So it's going to take a while. It's going to be the smaller guys who are actually going to show the way, I think. And they are doing it. There are organizations, there are social enterprises that are doing great things. They're just not noticed in Sri Lanka. They're not given the they're not given the spotlight because we are also so used to, even the media is so used to spotlighting those old
Big names.
school, the old institutions, right?
Right.
But you will see that the organizations that are going to make a difference post-COVID in Sri Lanka's economy are really organizations that are doing things that are going to help Sri Lanka get back up on its feet in terms of community and in terms of environment and things like that. Those are the guys who are going to be the backbone of Sri Lanka. The guys who are like, can I name brands on this interview?
By all means.
Okay, I don't know because there's no sponsorship of any sort. But take for instance an organization like Dilma, right? With the Dilma Foundation, the things they're doing for environment, the things they're doing for the communities, in plantation communities, the estate workers, the things they're doing for wildlife. That's a lot of contribution that a company is making. And a lot of the time they don't talk, they actually focus on it. They have a Dilma Foundation, they do things with the Hikuntaka gypsy communities, they do things with a lot of wildlife conservation efforts. Even if you take like a bank like Nations Trust Bank, they're putting a lot of money into wildlife. And there are companies like Celine, for instance, the largest handloom exporter, fair trade handloom exporter in Sri Lanka. So she's single-handedly raising a community of women in Kutanagala through her enterprise, through her model, her social model. But people don't know this. In Sri Lanka, we don't talk about this.
Right.
But they're doing amazing things, and they're doing amazing things for the country. If these kinds of companies didn't exist, this country would be in a big fix.
Right.
We also have the larger FMCG conglomerates who are now getting on this bandwagon, but it's more on paper. They're talking about it like it's more
Let's
it's
think
like a
about
lip
it sort of
service thing. Yeah, it'll be like they'll have a fancy vision statement or a purpose statement or something like that.
Right.
They'll do a lot of PR around it.
Right.
They'll actually leverage on it for their own financial income.
Right. Right.
But ultimately, when you look at what are they actually doing out there, what are they actually contributing, it's like minuscule in comparison.
Right. Right.
But they talk about it. So they all know the importance of the PR value of doing something like that. Hang on. No, I'm almost done. Thank you.
Yeah, you are. Let's looking over your shoulder sheepishly as if you're being caught for something.
No, I was asked if I want to shift. Is it okay? I'm doing an interview. No problem. Yeah, go ahead.
All right, let's just quickly move on to your talk show right now. Which
Yeah.
of course is highly successful. You've been garnering subscribers. Yes, it is. You've been garnering subscribers almost every day. And now, just talk us through this. When did this egg hatch? I read somewhere that it was, I think, just after the Easter attacks.
Shaq, can I take you to another room so that I don't disturb the people in
Yeah,
this
sure,
one?
no problem. Yeah, take us on a tour.
I don't want to get in your way, please. Yeah. So this is Rocco's. It's a lovely Italian restaurant. They have great food, amazing free wine because it's ladies' night. Ladies' night every Wednesday at Rocco's. Okay. See, now I have an entire dining room to myself.
Not bad, not bad.
This is much better. Okay, now I don't have to be conscious. Okay.
All right. So
Yeah,
basically, talking about your show, I read somewhere that all this basically started after the Easter attacks. But you had the idea for a while, but you just did not know exactly how to sort of kickstart the process. But then
Yeah.
just after that, it's just after April 2019, everything sort of fell into place. So how did that
Yeah.
work out?
Okay. So I like to talk, no? You know that.
Yeah. yeah.
Have to talk, right? Plus, I was on Good Morning Sri Lanka,
Yes,
right,
you
at
were.
one time,
Yes,
which I
you
enjoyed a lot, where I was hosting a breakfast show on TV. And I guess with my theatre background and all that, I have the gift for the gag. I've always been very vocal about things that matter to me, especially when it comes to women's issues, especially when it comes to social issues.
Right.
that I feel like people just don't talk about enough, right? And I found that lately in my life, when I got more involved in women's empowerment work, in mental health advocacy, when I talk to people who are really, really struggling with problems, and even like people who are suicidal, depressed, going through so many, like the domestic violence or whatever it is, whatever social issues are out there, I realized in Sri Lanka we have this problem where these things are so stigmatized and so secretive that abusers kind of rely on the secrecy. If we don't talk about it, we're never going to find a solution for things, right? If there's so much shame attached to talking about it or asking for help. And that is a problem. I realize that when we do kind of share what's going on with us, we realize that we are not the only ones. We realize we're not so alone, we are not so isolated in our issues, and when we find somebody who can relate to us, that in itself is cathartic. That's healing, to actually find someone else who knows what you've been through because they've been through it too. And these are conversations that I watched happening in these mental health advocacies and women's empowerment initiatives and all that they find each other and they heal, they grow stronger when they talk to each other. And for whatever reason, this country just doesn't talk. We talk about everybody else's problems except our own. We love that, right?
Right.
And we're so good at sweeping things under the rug. So I always wanted to get people to talk about things because I can talk, like why can't everybody else? And sort of stop this nonsense of being ashamed of things that you go through, because everybody struggles. You don't have to feel alone. If you struggle, you don't ever have to feel like you're some abnormality to have those struggles. But that shame has always stopped us. So I love this show called Loose Women. It's a British talk show, and it's like this bunch of women, a panel of women who just take the mickey out on everything. They just laugh at life's problems, right? And I found it very fun to watch, as well as I found it to be a fantastic concept. And my ex-boyfriend and I was actually watching that show once, and he was like, "You should do something like this." So I'm like, yeah, why not? Why can't I do something like that? I can be fun. I can crack jokes, and I can talk about these issues. And of course, didn't have any financial means to go to a TV station and say, I want to do this show. And then when you talk about social issues, it's not like every TV station wants to talk about those things also, because there's so many politics and sensitivities about, the censorships and the this and the that, and everybody's trying to be in somebody's good books, so they can't talk about so many things.
Right.
So I thought, there is this media now, which is YouTube.
Yeah.
It's free media. It is also the media that the youth or the new audience is on. People are hardly watching TV unless there's a cricket match or some newsworthy thing that they need to watch.
Even cricket, they're not
so
watching
YouTube
anymore.
was there. Yeah, well, that's our fault. But yeah, so the fact that there was this free media available, and it just was so much easier than it would have been 10 years ago to do this show. But then I knew I can't do it alone. I can talk. I know I can find people who want to share stories, but I don't have the technical know-how of producing. I just have little bits and pieces, but to sit down and do that camera work and that editing and all that, I needed some technical help. So I have a friend, Shifani, who she's a filmmaker, she's an artist, she's been doing some great work, and I knew she had the same kind of passions, same kind of bee in the bonnet with the women's empowerment and all that. So I spoke to her. I said, hey, I want to do this show. She was like, Ade, I also have wanted to do this kind of thing. So we kind of decided, okay, let's do this. But of course, work, life got in the way. So we kept talking about it, but never really doing it.
Right.
We were planning, and it was really not going anywhere. And then Easter Sunday happened. When Easter Sunday happened, we all know what happened, right? More than Easter Sunday, the society just blew apart.
Right.
Right, there was so much suspicion, so much paranoia, so much anxiety. I work as a community crisis responder.
Right.
I was dealing with calls at all odd hours of the night of women who were scared to sleep. Their kids were anxious. People were worried that people will come and kill them simply because of what religion they followed. Or
Right.
there was so much of hate. And I mean, if you go onto social media, the hate speech was like incredible amounts. That the largeness of that voice. But I also realized that as much as there was a lot of hate speech that we were seeing, the moderates are actually larger in numbers. They just don't talk.
Right.
So that's why they're moderates.
Right,
They don't
right,
want to
right.
get into conflict, so they don't go to argue.
Right.
And really, the voice of reason or the voice of peace, of tolerance, of reconciliation was really small
And quiet.
in comparison to these mobs.
Right.
Yeah, and quiet. Quiet because they don't want to get into, they don't want to upset anything
Right.
or get into fights or whatever, because that's the nature of being moderate.
Right.
So it was like a very niche group of like activists, social justice activists or whatever, who were rah-rahing about peace and unity, but then your numbers were coming from these extremist, fundamentalist groups. So Shifani and I actually thought, this is the show we need to start with. We need to give these moderates a voice. And more than just moderates, we need to give women a voice, because all we saw during Easter Sunday and the aftermath of Easter Sunday was men on media, men arguing with each other, men on these political debates, men on news channels just talking about what had happened, this, that, and the other. And it was like such a lot of hogwash sometimes. And we thought the women are the ones who are actually raising the children. The women are the ones who are affected by what these men are doing. They're getting onto the streets and hammering each other and all of that. It's the women who have to clean up their act afterwards. And women really deserve a voice in this country. And there's absolutely nothing at the moment on terrestrial or online media where Sri Lankan women are actually speaking. And by God, if we have 52% of Sri Lankan women, why isn't anybody speak? And we know women can talk if they're
yeah,
given
we
the chance.
We know.
Right? Yeah. So we said we'll give those women a chance. So we found, I tapped into friends, a Buddhist, a Muslim, myself as a Christian. We were 3 groups who were affected by what was going on, but we had a completely different narrative to share from all that hate and racism that was out there. And I wanted to show with our first episode that you can come from different backgrounds, you can agree to disagree, you can have completely conflicting or contrasting viewpoints, but you don't have to go and murder each other over it. You don't have to be disrespectful to each other. You can actually come to a table, have a civil conversation, and learn to empathize with each other's point of view and find the common connections. And that's what we need. We need to coexist. End of the day, however much we hate somebody, we still need to live in the world with them, right?
That's
so we have
true.
to figure out a way to get along, and that way is to have these conversations. So that was the first show. We decided that was the right show to do. We brought these 2 women in, had a chat about what's going on, how we're feeling about it, how our kids are feeling about it, what we think about racism. And we initially thought, okay, about 10 people will watch this. Our mothers, our friends, anyone who we forced to look at it.
Right.
So we put the show, we went on air.
Right.
We still have 0 budget. There's no marketing or anything that's done, except for on our personal social media pages. But when the show was published, within 2 hours, we had like 2,000 views. Suddenly, like in about 4 hours, there were about 6,000 views. Suddenly, overnight, there were like 10,000 views. And we're like, my God, what have we done? And then people started writing in to us. Women started writing in like, oh my God, I didn't know that I could talk about this, that I could have a voice about this. And then, so since then, it's just been snowballing, and there's not been, Sri Lanka is certainly not short of any social issues.
Yeah.
So there's always something to talk about.
We have something every week.
And now it's come to a point where our viewers itself, we have viewers from 32 different countries. If you look at our analytics,
Great.
Yeah, and we're quite pleased about it. And it's not only Sri Lankan viewers
That's
also.
good.
So
Yeah.
it's like, and then we got invited to present. I was invited to Nepal last year to present the show as
Yeah.
an alternative voice for justice at this I Pro Bono legal conference for human rights, which was massive. Then we won an SLT 01 award for community empowerment. We have viewers now writing to us and giving us ideas about what kind of shows to do. The fact that we did a couple of shows where we got women to come out and talk about issues, now we have enough and more people who are willing to come forward and talk. That's the best part about it, the fact that people are feeling like they can be open now and they're willing to come out and
Now,
talk about
all
very
along you
uncomfortable stuff.
bootstrap the whole thing.
What does that mean? I don't know the meaning of that word.
So all along you pretty much funded the whole thing on your own without any
Yeah,
sponsors.
yeah, out of pocket. We have had zero. We've tried to raise money. We have proposals that we have been appealing to corporates and brands with, but nobody wants to be associated with controversial subjects. So, if it's a happy subject, they'll come on board. If it's not, they don't. And but I think brands don't realize the importance of these subjects to their audience, to their customers. I mean, it's their customers who are watching this show. So
True.
you want to be a brand that encourages free speech, encourages empowerment, but I don't know, they just don't see it that way. So no, we have not had any money coming in. At certain pockets of time, we crowdfunded. So we had fans who sent us like little bits of money, like donations. It helped us raise enough money to buy ourselves mics.
Okay.
So we have mics now. Those also let us down on one or two episodes. And yeah, now we're trying to raise money. But at the moment, we edit on laptops that are not meant for video editing. So we have this problem of every 2 seconds the thing crashes, and then we have
Shiny,
to
you and I
wait like half an hour for it to
you and
load.
I should have a chat after this.
Yeah. So we're trying to raise money now for a proper editing laptop. Um, yeah.
I'm
So
gonna now
that's there.
basically your show. I mean, as you're getting to the tail end of the interview right now, just this question is,
Yeah.
um, your show is a front runner in bringing out issues that people do not want to talk about, but it's like something that everybody knows it exists.
Yeah.
It's taboo subject.
Yeah. Yeah.
Personally, how has this helped you coming out with
It
something
has.
like this? What?
Okay. No, in the sense, I get a lot of flack because there are still people out there who don't want me to talk about these things.
Right,
So
right.
for every show we do, there will be very, very vocal, angry people um,
Men or women?
who are affected by both.
Both.
There are women who are very old school who don't think we should be talking about issues. It's not good to air the dirty linen kind of thing.
Right,
Um, but the men have been a little more, I think, aggressive because there are men whose businesses are affected. For instance, we did a show on human trafficking,
right.
which is a very big problem in Sri Lanka, which we don't talk about. The fact that it is an enormous problem in Sri Lanka, that we have human trafficking issues and we have political involvement in human trafficking. And the fact that we exposed that on the show, I had people from politics calling me, people whose involvements in those things were affected. And I have dealt with death threats to shut up. So I don't care. I tell them, come at me. Come at me, bro. Do your best. It's already out there. There's nothing you can do now. So, like even the human elephant conflict, we did a show where we were quite critical of the whole Perahera business when it comes to captive elephants and the abuse therein. So there again, you're dealing with religious clergy, you're dealing with a lot of
Yeah, yeah.
institutions that are making a lot of money on these things. So yeah, so in that sense, my security has not been enhanced by the show in one bit. But it heals me, Shaq, because for years and years, personally, I'm someone who has had various issues in my personal life that I have never felt I had the right to talk about. that I could be understood, or that I was not trying to be a drama queen if I wanted to reach out to someone. But this show has been, in a way, healing for me,
Right.
because when I see the number of messages we get from viewers who tell us that their lives have changed because of something that they saw on our channel. The fact that we have been able to connect viewers with legal services, medical services, counseling services, law enforcement, for problems that they didn't know that they could actually seek help for.
Right. Right.
That to me has been like, wow. Like, I have got calls and letters from people who, like, literally, like, we've gotten letters saying, I was about to take my life. I watched your episode and that changed everything.
Wow.
So that is like, that means a lot more than those empty threats that come at me.
You can't get a better feeling than that. All right, Shanika,
No, you can't.
There's so much that we can actually talk about the show. We're into the final 5 minutes of the show. As a matter of fact, this is something that we do with every guest that we have. Well done. Can put that back on. Yeah, this is
Yes,
something
thank
that
you.
we do.
That's the wine, no?
It's about time. That we do with all our guests on the show. It's called the Final Five. We've got 5 questions that we have. Most of them, of
Okay.
course, I mean, it could be uncomfortable. Questions that could be uncomfortable for you to
Who, with me?
Yeah,
Me?
that's the
Check.
thing.
I make people uncomfortable.
That's the thing. It took me one entire day to come up with these 5 questions, having you in mind.
It is not possible. Bring it on, bro. It is not possible to make me uncomfortable.
All right, I know. It's not.
Wait,
none
no,
of
I don't want to
these
challenge you on
5
that.
These 5 questions, pretty much very soft. They're not at all. Final 5. Let's find out what it is.
Okay.
Here's your first question. Let's see what it is. Is there
Okay.
any person you wouldn't save over the life of an animal?
I wouldn't save.
You wouldn't save.
Shouldn't it be? Is there any person you would save?
No, it wouldn't. That's the whole idea.
Okay. Over the life of an, okay. Who wouldn't I say? I'd always go for the animal first, very honestly. That's the problem. So now I'm thinking, it's like my entire ecosystem of people I know I wouldn't save over the life of an animal. Sorry.
All right. Okay. So
Too
yeah.
many people on the planet, not enough animals.
Okay, so there. I think we got the answer to that one. Okay, here's your second question. Let's see how we get this one. If you had a choice, would you play the lead on the opening night or the closing night?
Closing night.
Closing night? Why?
That's a feeling like that. Because closing night is when everybody lets loose. Everybody has the most amount of fun. It's like that one last hurrah, right?
Right.
So as an actor on stage with the crew, the production, everybody is just like that much more emotional and giving like that massive level of passion, and that 120% goes into it, because that's the last time you're doing it. Opening night is full of nerves. Opening night you have like a pity audience. The closing night is the feel
finale.
good, that last curtain, the finale, definitely.
Okay, all right. Question number 3. What's the last thing you do before you step out on stage or before the curtain goes up?
Peace. I'm not even kidding on this one.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty logical answer at the same time.
No, because I have stage fright. I have clinical anxiety. Yeah. I did a
After
TED talk
all
about
these
this.
years?
This is the thing, nobody believes me when I say this. All this bravado, all this big talk is an act. I am a fake. So I did a TED talk on the fact that I have clinical anxiety, and I use these theater tricks of showing confidence to hide what's going on with me. Every time I do a show, I might have done like years and years of theater, but every single show I do, I'm a nervous wreck before the curtains go up. I can't talk to anyone. I'm sweating. I'm like palpitating. I'm having paranoia. I'm forgetting my lines. So yeah, and
You
I really
superstitious
need to
also?
pee at times like that. No, I'm not superstitious, but I really, really need to pee. Like my internal organs just go into full flight. So yeah, that's the last thing I do before the curtain opens.
Okay. Question number 4. Here we go. What is something people assume about you that is incorrect. It's not us incorrect. It's supposed to be is incorrect. What is something people assume about you that is incorrect?
That I am invulnerable. That I am, yeah, I am breakable. I am very breakable.
Okay.
Extremely.
Right.
I think people rely on this whole confident, diva, drama queen, loudmouth, empowered woman thing that I put out there. But I'm also someone who's tried to commit suicide. I'm also someone who deals with a lot of depression, a lot of loneliness, a lot of vulnerability. And I'm very, very, very self conscious. People don't know that. I don't let them know that. Now I do. Now it's on Podhub.
Well, there you go. There you go. Now everyone knows that.
Yeah.
Okay, here's your final question. Would you rather have whatever you're thinking to appear above your head for everyone to see, or absolutely everything you do live stream for everyone to see?
I think I already do both these things. No?
You do, don't you?
Everyone knows what's going on in my head, and everyone knows what's going on in my life. My mother also says I can't fart without letting the world know about it. I'm not sure, Chef. These are questions that you should be asking me.
It's all out there. It's all out there. Yes.
It's all out there. I'm an open book, baby. Like, the worst bits are out there. And that's good because there's nothing anyone can ever blackmail me about because I'll blackmail myself first.
5 final questions. Thanks a lot, Shanaki. Just before we go,
Thanks.
how's the whole eclair business going?
It's going. You want more?
I do. Why would I say no?
But actually, it was a way of keeping myself alive during COVID because suddenly I had no business, I had no money, I needed to do something, and I realized I could bake.
Right.
And I'm not above that. So I started baking eclairs, and somehow it took off. People liked what they ate. I started getting orders. So yeah,
But it's been quite.
I do that.
It's a bit quiet recently.
I keep it quiet because it got overwhelming after a bit. Because
Oh,
it was
really?
like there's just I have one oven and there's just so much I can cater to, and because I
everybody
was
knows that you have one
promoting it
oven.
online, yeah. But the thing is that when people come, they come in droves because the word of mouth has gone around and everybody likes it. Sri Lanka has a sweet tooth, no? So if you
Yeah.
say eclairs, they'll come. So the thing is, I needed to go on the down low to be able to manage the order capacity. Yeah.
Okay.
So now I'm a little careful about how much I talk about it. Those who know.
All right. Anyway, Shanaki, thanks so much for accepting our invitation to come on the show.
Thank you, Shaq.
Not a problem. Wonderful to have you. Congratulations on the achievement of the show and everything that you do. And
Thanks
here's,
a lot,
of course, I mean, like we could have easily spoken so much about the show. There's a lot of things that we wanted to ask you about. Still don't have time. You need to go back to your wine. Your friends are waiting.
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't know if they've drunk my Shaq.
We'll let you go then. Have a good night.
Thank you. Bye.
Not a problem. Take care. Shanuki on the show with us as always. Wonderful to have a chat with her and a fantastic show. I'm sure you must have definitely caught it on YouTube. We're going to take a break. We got the boys from VoicePrint coming up right on the other side of this with a brand new song that released just a couple of days ago. We'll have it played right here on Facebook and of course right here on the Podhub page.